Hello, everyone, and welcome back to one more session of In Confidence with Dr. Reddy. As always, this has been powered by Adraas, which is a real time environment for online dispute resolution where they provide the platform. And as one of these events, today we have with us a very young but very highly talented person, Foram Gala. Let me just bring her across. Welcome, Foram.
Good morning. Hi.
And for a very brief introduction, she's based in Mumbai and works in the Mumbai area. She's a first generation advocate and is the founder of F&S Law Chambers. She's accredited as an arbitrator and a mediator. She is also a practicing advocate, but let's hear from her more about mediation. So the first thing what we say in mediation is it's not about me, it's about you, the party. So that's how I would like to bring in Forum. And I was just sharing with her that I got accredited as a mediator just a week ago. So the certificate is still pending, but so I'm just fresh out of mediation school.
And a seasoned negotiator.
I'm a tough negotiator, but I need to get out of that shell and step into the mediator's shoes.
Realm of mediation, I know.
So let's see. First question I want to ask you and understand is you do a lot of family matrimonial disputes, right? In the perspective of matrimonial disputes, what is the difference between counseling and mediation? We keep saying a lot of times the court refers them to counseling. Court also refers to mediation. So what's the difference between counseling and mediation?
So if I start with mediation, what mediation essentially is a process where a mediator, who is a third neutral party, in the process of mediation, he helps or she helps the parties to achieve a mutually satisfactory settlement of their dispute outside the court, right? So this entire process of mediation is extremely voluntary, where parties approach the mediator. It's a very non-binding process, as in where a mediator is someone who doesn't push their decisions onto the parties, but it's very free going, it's easy, and it basically fosters a lot of communication in order to resolve disputes between the parties. And it's also a very confidential process as such, as to when we go to courts, it becomes a public matter. Confidential process, mediation, so parties are not afraid of that information being used anywhere else. And parties here themselves in mediation have the power to resolve their disputes the way they like it. So the outcome is absolutely in their hands. Now, having asked about counseling, how counseling functions, it's basically either one party approaches a counselor or both the parties approach the counselor. It can be either ways. There can be conjunct sessions, there can be concurrent sessions where a counselor wants to gain more insight into the facts, the emotions that are dwelling between parties, why the dispute is happening, and essentially give perspective to the clients as to how these disputes can be resolved. And when a party comes to the counselor, they come with an intention that they want to resolve it, in the sense, most of the times, that they want to stay together, but they are unable to because of XYZ factors. So the perspective that a counselor gives to the parties might just be of help, Whereas in mediation, it can either be perspective in the sense where parties themselves discover that they want to live together, or in many cases want to move out, but mutually. So that's the main difference between counseling and mediation.
So let me use my newly learned skills and restate what you just said.
Sure.
Okay, so both mediation and counseling are very similar in a lot of respects. They are both confidential and they are both having this sense where there can be private sessions with one party and the counselor or mediator, or it can be a combined session with both the parties along with the counselor or mediator. But what happens in mediation is that the mediator is listening more and helping the parties discover what the parties want.
Right.
Whereas in counseling, I believe the counselor is also talking more, obviously listening to understand the situation, but also talking more and providing different alternatives.
Yes, and providing even different solutions.
So different
And
solutions.
providing more insights into the clients for the client's own well-being, you know.
So the
Yeah.
counselor is more proactive and trying to direct the people in a particular uh, direction.
Yeah.
Whereas a mediator is more about helping you discover yourself. So mediator
Right.
is more like a mirror, if I may say. A counselor is more like a directional arrow. A part mirror, part directional arrow.
Yeah.
Okay, wow. So that's wonderful. But one of the things you were saying that mediation and then use sometimes like method. So I'm combining both and saying that mediation has different methods of mediation. There's not only one style, there are multiple styles. Can you share one or two different methods of mediation? Maybe a few more if you can recall on the spot.
In case of mediation, see, it all depends on how the party wants to take forward the process, mainly. You know, at times where there are a lot of parties involved in case of a dispute, um, and there's a lot of emotion involved at the start. What we do is take concurrent sessions with one party each at a time so that people can have time to settle. People have that trust and rapport building time with the mediator. After that, when parties feel that they are now comfortable and there's complete trust reposed, that's the time where we consider having joint sessions, you know. So these are different ways where it depends on the case, of course, that because family and matrimonial disputes are sensitive matters, so private caucuses of course always help, but there's a time when things settle, when feelings and emotions are better off and people really want to come out with solutions, when they are at a stage where they want to be rational, we have joint sessions and kind of figure out solutions um, with the parties, you know, what would suit them best, their needs and interests the best. So that way there are many different ways of conducting mediation.
Okay. Uh, Now, in these mediation sessions, again, I think even mediation can be approached by one party.
Right.
And then you offer the second party also to join the mediation,
Yes.
similar to counseling.
Yes. So if
Okay.
I can elaborate more on that, I'm a lawyer by profession. So, for example, for instance, in case of a matrimonial dispute, a client, for example, a lady, is coming to me, is approaching to me in the capacity of me being a lawyer. What I do as an accredited mediator is listen to the facts of her entire story, understand, gain insights, and would give her an option as to why not look for mediation before proceeding to the court, you know, and starting litigating proceedings. And if there is agreement by the wife that she wants to go forward with mediation and she wants to try to resolve disputes amicably, what we do is we send a mediation letter to the husband in this case, where the husband most probably, at least with an intention that, okay, let me at least listen to what my wife has to say or what this lawyer or a mediator, your mediator has to say, they come here. After building a rapport and trust session with the husband as well with the wife, you know, herself, both parties generally then decide to go forward with a mediation, you know. It's a different matter if they want to live together, if they come to a conclusion where they want to live together. Most often they want to part ways, but the best part is how to part ways mutually, and that's what our focus is generally on. So that's the process that goes in this.
So the mediator is more process driven rather than goal oriented.
Yeah, the resolution and the process is more important in a mediation because that determines the outcome then,
Because the
you know,
outcome is not in the mediator's hand, it's the
not at
party's hand.
yes.
So mediator is not really concerned. Of course, as a human element, we may be interested in the outcome, a positive outcome. But theoretically, a mediator is not focusing on the outcome. He or she is just focusing on the process, making sure the parties understand what they are and what they want.
Yeah, so the main work of a mediator is to help both parties communicate with each other, you know, and break the deadlock
So it's
so
not
that it is
always
then when parties are able to find creative solutions for themselves
so it's not
in order
always
to,
about
yeah, what's best for themselves, their needs and interests.
sorry, what I was saying is it's not always about a compromise. It's sometimes about collaboration also.
Right.
So
So
that's the difference in
mediation is all
mediation.
about communication and collaboration.
Mhm. So a quick question there is, Can advocates be allowed into mediation sessions? Can they
Yes,
sit beside their
advocates
party?
most definitely can be allowed into mediation sessions. They cannot play a very, very active role in mediations because it has to do more with parties, but just to help them get acquainted with any kind of legal repercussions, consequences, or just keep them adept with the laws, they can definitely be involved in a mediation.
Okay. Does law come into play more in mediation? Is it that required?
Yes, it would be nice to have been aware of all the laws when it comes to mediation, but um, law would come most into place at the end when a mediation is successful, and when that's a time to draft a settlement agreement, draft consent terms between parties. That's the time where law is most helpful when it comes to mediation. Yeah, so that's it.
Now, have you conducted mediation sessions as a mediator?
Yes, many.
Now, the question I'll ask you again, with all due respect to your knowledge and intelligence and wisdom, how do you find parties reacting to a young person, uh, helping them find a route? Because what I find is the gray hair syndrome. People are looking for a senior and then they expect you to be a grandmother. And then they
Correct.
say, you're not even my daughter's age, and how can you tell me what to do? That's the
Correct.
perspective I keep hearing from
Yes.
a lot of young people. So
I
what's
agree to you because, yes, the salt and pepper and the gray hair, kind of defines seniority and defines experience. So that is somewhere considered. But what happens is when parties approach, there are pre mediation sessions, where parties get a chance to talk to the lawyer and the mediator, whatever role I'm playing in, and develop that kind of trust and rapport with the lawyer, where parties themselves judge us as lawyers and mediators as to would I be comfortable with this person? Would I be comfortable talking to this person about my issues? Would there be absolutely non judgment when it comes to all my issues? And that's where, the deadlock breaks between the lawyer or the mediator and the party. And it is only then, when the party is completely convinced, would they sign in for mediation. Before that, it's not possible. So by the time we actually proceed into mediation, that trust and that rapport and that, friendliness, not friendliness, but that comfort and that safe zone is already developed.
okay? Now, what skills do you think a mediator requires?
A lot of skills, but most importantly, I think a mediator must be a very active and an empathetic listener, especially when it comes to clients and family and matrimonial mediations. There are so many emotions involved, so many parties involved, including children and senior citizens. So, one is that. One is basic emotional intelligence, making sure that the parties to mediation, to the dispute, feel seen, feel heard, feel understood, and most importantly, felt respected. So, that is very important. Apart from that, many other skills, like just like a lawyer has, like observations and analyzing problems, to the best of their ability, so that we can kind of diplomatically guide parties as to what would suit them best and what not about giving solutions, but just facilitate them, right? And empathetic listening, as I said. And apart from them, a lot of skills, if I would say, the mediator needs to be absolutely non-judgmental when it comes with any kinds of when parties hit them with any kind of problems. Absolutely non-judgmental, and she should also, or he should also, be available to provide a safe space for that dialogue. You know that
Okay,
way. So a lot of skills that way, which are kind of essential while it comes to mediation.
that's nice. And one of the things I say that there's a little bit of manipulation that's happening, even though I don't want to use the word manipulation because it's a negative connotation. What happens is that we have a positive way of conveying our uh, intention into the other person's mind. Um, in fact, I was doing this in one of our earlier sessions where I had a group of people and I had them do a small exercise and I had this on the PowerPoint. Okay, so I asked them one question and then after that I asked them a second question And then I showed the results of the first question and the second question. And the majority chose whatever answers I gave. So it was like a mass hypnotism which I did, where I was able to implant my idea into their heads. And they were surprised how I was doing that, because I was doing all kinds of mentalism and tricks so that they were leaning towards my solution rather than taking a neutral stand. In a group of 20 or more people, how do I get a majority to choose what I want? I did that.
Let's call this diplomacy.
That was a very diplomatic answer.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you share one example? I mean, we are reaching the end of our time, but obviously, in mediation, we need to have the patience and the time. Unfortunately, online sessions, again, that's a different topic. How good can we use virtual sessions for mediation? We'll come back to that maybe in some other session, but not today. But as a concluding part, can you share one good example which was positive or negative, doesn't matter, where the parties came out happy? Can you share without any names, obviously?
Yeah, sure. So I would be very happy to say that 70 to 80% of our mediations have been successful,
Okay.
you know. So if I share an example, there was a couple. The guy came to us as a client and for seeking legal advice. And like I told you, the process that goes, the husband in this case approached us for legal advice, and he was hell bent, because parties generally feel we are correct and we have a stronger case. So why show vulnerability when we have all the right cards? And he had approached us with that attitude, and we got to it as to why not mediation. So we sent a mediation letter to the girl, and he, of course, agreed to it that I don't mind trying it, but I'm not going to adjust or compromise in any way because I've had enough. And we sent a mediation letter to the girl, and we had around 2 to 3 mediation sessions with them jointly and concurrently. There was a time where they were also willing to call their parents, so that we could talk to them and we could explore more options, because Indian families involve a lot of parties. It's not just the couple, it's family, it's children, it's everything. And parents, and we had concurrent sessions with their in-laws, their parents. And after around 8 to 10 hours of mediation, a couple that was on the verge of getting divorced, who had so many grudges against each other, they were literally battling, like they were like two parties to a war in the same house. They decided that why not give this marriage another chance? So this gave us so much satisfaction. This was a very recent example that I shared, and there are so many like that, where either couples decide to live together and try and give marriage another chance, or there are couples who decide that we don't want to go one sided, let's go for a mutual divorce so that you can move on and I can move on, and it will be in the best interest of the child. So there are many such examples that can keep going on, and which most of them have been successful. Of course, there are failures also when it comes to mediation, but then once mediation done, there's always a door open for litigation. So I would always suggest parties to first go for mediation, and then they are always free to go wherever they want. So yeah, that was indeed a very successful and a very satisfying mediation, so to say.
Okay. Well, let me also share one example. This did not happen to me. My senior shared it, and he said towards the end of his session, the couple were saying, "Why are we fighting?" And they both got up. They hugged each other.
Right.
So the advocates came running, thinking they were going to fight. The advocates were sitting in the other room. So this advocate said, "We all need to leave. They are both going to kiss each other."
No, but
So
that's indeed a very fulfilling,
it was.
profession, so to say. Then that we realize that, oh, we are in a fulfilling profession where if we can use our skills to the best of the client's, benefits, why not?
Sure. Sounds great. So, with that, I thank you for your time. This was wonderful. And as I said, this has all been about you. We are going to maintain 100% confidentiality, except that we are going to post this video on YouTube.
Sure, no problem.
So, what's the confidentiality there? So
Confidentiality, it
I
is
said I'm
no
going to maintain everything
confidentiality.
confidential.
Just keeping the client informed.
Yes, but I'm saying that I'm going to put everything on YouTube. but I'm going to keep everything confidential.
Yeah,
So
that's
this is the
again the
kind of
beauty.
tricky things which we do as advocates, or the advocacy skills that we use. But anyways, thank you for your time. It was a wonderful,
Thank you
very
so much.
lively and interactive session. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.